Cool. Well, thank you again for attending my session here. I'll be trying my best for you to take away one or two things from this session, our journey at Docusign, and hopefully you can apply it when you go back to your daily mundane activities at work. As you can see, I'll be going over the analytics engineering journey at Docusign, focusing mostly on migrating legacy and SQL store procedures to DBT models. So can I have raised hands who people are selling store procedures and legacy procs? And OK, that's a good number of audience. So I'm happy with that. So I think it'll be relevant. So let's get in without any wait. So I'm going to a little bit introduce myself. Bishal Gupta here. Been a couple of decades in the data science and analytics engineering. Always pushing to make better data products is what I live for. And initially leveraged DBT core, and we have transitioned to DBT cloud in the last year. Always trying to drive business success through data-driven insights is my mantra, and proponent of dry code. We'll be delving a lot more into this today, which is do not repeat yourself, which I have found in DBT to be promising from this engineering paradigm. With that, I was going to just tell you what team I'm from in Docusign. We are called Global Data Analytics Org. And we have folks here from Docusign, including my senior director here from the leadership and all my awesome colleagues here. So please feel free to jump on to ask any questions after the session as well. They have been part of the journey for this success with me. So I just want to call out anybody has questions. So in our data org here, we have this expertise and technologies. All of us here have one or two that we contribute to, DBT being one of them. Snowflake is our warehouse. And we have other technologies that you can see here. Solutions are supported by our Python underneath and Azure. And we are really proud to serve business units like finance, sales, marketing, and whatnot. So our goal every day we come to work, like empowering Docusign's business units in making informed decisions, right? How we get there, constantly working on that, trying to have always ahead of market trends in this competition out there, and of course, achieving the strategic goals set by the leadership and by other people. So with that, let's jump into a little bit of agenda that I'm going to covering today. Mainly going to be diving on the why, what, and how, right? I'm sure you guys are interested more on the later side, which is the meat. But I'll be starting a little bit warm up there to see what that looks like going forward. On the adoption journey, I'll just start with DBT core, right? Everybody almost starts with DBT core, which is a good place to start. And early 2002, we did a POC here. The team over here was really involved on expertise around that one. And very soon, we were, in a couple of months, we had over 30 models with 8 users. And one of the major milestones last year was migrating some of the core models to DBT. Happy to share some of the experience later on in the time. And then today, we are 40+ users with 1,000+ models. So really, scaling up really quickly from what we did over there. So really fortunate to have that. So let's move to the, the advanced features that we use today are the mesh, the project evaluator, and data test and unit test. We'll be talking a little bit about that, is how it benefited us in the journey as well. So with that said, let's jump to the why, right? There are so many to list over here, and I'm just going to display a few of them, and I hope you guys can relate too. Some of the things that I will be delving more in today is, of course, the reusability, the drive principle, how lightly it is taken, but it has the strength that it puts to your models, a lot more than anything else, and more benefits. Testability in there. And of course, the inefficient code management, which comes with the versioning and whatnot that is coming there. And other pain points that I had to make 2 slides out of that. So dashboards, right? It's all down to say what metrics you are showing at the end. How the dashboards have more uptime with this when something goes down versus having in the previous models. And the data lineage. So there are some of the quick pain points that I have had experience, we have experience in our journey. And I'm going to dive into some of them really quick. And before we move forward, like you guys want to know how it benefited us. So I'm going to put these 4 points here and said, and I'm going to be delving more into them is the reusability and modular and incremental models. Coding efficiency definitely increasing more. And the collaboration, which is something that is always, again, not as much importance given, but that really brings the productivity out. When collaboration is not just the data engineers within themselves, but data engineers to analytics engineers to analysts to data scientists. So that collaboration that comes in place adds to the productivity gain a lot more. And then, of course, the testing and document ETL queries. So I want to put some numbers here, and then I'm going to drive through to how it actually happened. This literally gave me depth productivity of 60% gain right away. And this is just a starting portion of it, which I have legacy models and the DBT models. And when I have to develop those things, I can count the metrics. And again, the cost savings right off the bat was 40%. And this, again, doesn't count other things that will come after that. So with that, let's go into now, that all sounds good, right? So one of my challenges was making the case, including to my leadership here and whatnot. So you guys what are the experience of that one? I'm happy to talk more about it. So it's always looking at the initial investment versus long-term ROI, right? That is something you have to play the hat of saying, how am I making the case, not only to my engineering leaders, but also to the product management and then data stakeholders. So that I have done with a small POC and show the metrics. And 4 points I use is showing them the improved uptime on that one. And the bottom 2, which are very interrelated and have the cascading benefits, is the scalability for new use case and the enhanced flexibility that goes. Because it's a matter of time. Stakeholders want to get as much metrics as fast as possible to make the decisions that they want to make. And they want it yesterday, right? So that's a pretty typical lingo that say, when you want it was happening yesterday. So how do we get there is, and then from data engineering perspective, we want to do things right. We not cut corners. So this flexibility and scalability gives us the flexibility to do the way things we want to do and provide them the metrics that go there. So with that, let's get into a story and use case scenario. So I put this picture together just to show how we can get into the complexity of architecture. So let's say this is our data warehouse where you have a bunch of sources and tables that are there. They could be connected, interconnected, disconnected. You can call whatever you want. So now we have analysts, data scientists, and data engineers have that task to see how they can drive metrics to that. So I'm bringing them together there. And I think we all can relate that people want metrics, so they will go and get that and put in their dashboards and metrics. And data engineers, of course, want to think, saying, we want to build and modularize the data in certain way or the other. So what they have in disposal in Snowflake today is stored procedures. OK, looks all good, right? Everything is fine. However, it doesn't stop there. Things get complex really fast. So we end up with this architecture, and then you can see here the data platform jumbled up like that. This could be your ad hoc stored procedures or ad hoc queries, both from the analysts and the engineers and the analytic engineers, trying to work together and making sense out of that. And on the right side, I'm saying analytics and business goals. As you can notice, I'm not seeing any pointers there right now because I'm saying, OK, this is all good. So who wrote this query? You know what? I've been there myself. I wrote one of those queries because that was the thing. And or some engineers wrote it, and I went through the pain of that, right? So the story that I want to make here is that the business grows and data grows, right? So there are 3 things that I have felt that we really need to be ready for. Is the data stack is always in flux. So the first thing is that no matter what a data stack looks like today, it probably won't look like that tomorrow. And the second thing is that we really have to insulate from that change. So that's another case to make, right? And with that, so what happens then is that we need to be agile to that changes. And with the modern data stack model like DBT, there's an idea of centralizing the business logic, which makes it easier to adapt those changes as they occur, right? So in summing up, trying to solve the architectural complexity that comes with it. So with that, I want to just show a very simple picture. And this picture is not rocket science, but something that always good to see is that prog versus DBT models that comes out of it. So I'm just showing a prog called, let's say, sprog S4. This could be looking at few data sets underneath it are calling another proc, right? What do? You say, OK, I'm going to start opening it up. And you go find the S3 inside it. This could be data sets or procs, anything like that. And it goes on, right, by the time you get there. But as you can see in that circle, there is no particular path to get to that. It could be anything. It could be a developer looking at the references. It could be me running traces of Snowflake to see how those things are being referenced. Or it could be just me manually decoding the entire code. But that quickly changes with the modularity. With any modern test stack tool like dbt is, we can go from 1 to 3 to down to the M1, right? So it's a simple diagram over there to show what it looks like. And so before and after, that's how I wanted to get to the diagram to have a little bit of a context around it is, there you go, we have a stored procedures, looks like that. As you can see here, if I can see so this layer over here is your models. So in here, the VIML tool that we are showing over here has problems. So you come and find out, oh, there's a problem serving it. OK, coming from that journey is, I think you guys can relate. When was the last time somebody has to open a proc to serve the dashboard and realize maybe I don't want to do that? Can I have some raised hands over there? Right? So you guys can relate that. I just had this instance last week. So with that, as you can see, the procs have their code in it, and then we can drill down, but it comes with the work, which is converted to this, right? Now, in a simple form, if I have an issue in one of these dashboard, either they are incorrect or they have mismatching, I can go down to this, which is one of the models, which could be the interface layer or the dashboard layer, and I know where to go. And if there's a problem in any of the procs, I can point it out here. And it goes on. But as you can see, your data sources, which is this portion of it, is the same, but the data model has entirely changed. So just to give you an idea how the whole thing changed, and it's so refreshing. My devs are happy. I'm happy with that to go forward. Now let's go to the portion of, you could say, hey, well, store procs are doing my job today, and why the burden of or the work of doing that? But yes, they are widely used. I have had complex transformations there, but the list goes on like this: risky, hard to trace, increased costs. After all that work, we're not sure how much of the data are incorrect and available all the time, and stress developers, and I'm sure we can relate because I have been there, and exactly no trust. So I think that if you were in the keynote, trust word was used at least 5 times, if I can count right, or 8. So it's something that we always have to keep in mind. I start my day in the morning with saying, am I going to be able to have my customers trust my data? If I have not, everything that I've done is no use. So that's when the things come in place. Now, with that said, let's get to the portion of, in a matter of time, about the process of migration. So I'm just going to have you guys just limit with this because out of time. But mostly like implementing sources, which is standardizing the source that we have in there and centralizing the grouping of that. It's a 5-step process. And then auditing, which I have also used the audit helper to compare pre and post. Implementing sources is a very critical step because you actually standardize data. In Docusign itself, we have some Western documents, right? So how do you query a document? Always becomes a different version. It depends on who is querying it. I'm able to go and put that logic in one place and make that public and say, hey, this is how you actually identify document with these filters. So those things come in here handy with that. So with that, I'm going to do a real use case scenario here, which probably be a little bit more interesting to look at. Is from that, I'm trying to show modularity, reusability, deeper insights, and testability. So in this, what I had is that I had a project where I was serving a finance and payment insights team. Their pain point was their payment solutions wasn't really doing what they wanted to do when it comes to collecting payments. So it's all about you selling your product. If you're not getting the payments, there's no use. There was an unrealized revenue loss of up to $3 million per year with lack of insight that was coming out of the data because they weren't able to track the data elements appropriately and not able to serve the payment product team to make a better solution around that. So with that, I worked with them and first of all, looking at this old store procedures that were there, looking at that, also trying to understand what is the pain that they have current today. And taking that in mind, analyzing those areas, building the data sources first, which I did. So after that, we went ahead and put those grouping. As you can see, those second layer over there was reusable data and models that had insight that were otherwise been missed with the earlier programs of the procs and whatnot, right? So when I worked with them, it was a iterative process to start showing them what are some of these things will provide them, right? And as you can see here, when I move forward to there, I was able to create stuff like card validations and then also some direct payments data and digital payments data. These provided metrics. As an example, a customer credit card transaction would tender but have a reversal. That was missed, right? So that's a revenue loss right there for Docusign. And that actually included passive churn because customers' credit card transaction did not go through. And then renewals were not happening with that. So there was definitely a pain in there where actually you were converting to the churns. So big business impact was being lost. So with that process, we were able to implement this in certain way that I have been able to transition it from the translation portion of it and build these data sets around it to do that. Now, in this process, the things that were really handy to do was reusability of the process like macros, and then Jinja function that gives a lineage, and we'll talk about the testing as well. So in the matter of time, we have to tap this. So talking about macros, I want to put in a very simple word because sometimes it can be overwhelming to think about it, right? We talked about drive. Do not repeat yourself. I want to put in a picture here is that when was the last time people had some common operations or common logic that they apply to their data models? There is a questions like that, right? So you go ahead and build this, and some one developer build it, somebody wants to use it, or maybe not, or what that happens. So let's say this is incremental logic, this is a payment code mapping logic, this is a logic where you're counting how much payments you got per month and revenue and everything like that. But what ends up happening is in your data models and queries, you're applying it again. Two things are happening here, right? Is you are reusing and rewriting this code every time. Second, you are getting far away from the single version of truth that is happening inside it. Sooner or later, these things will differ in places. And what happens? Now you have 5 different versions of data. Like Tristan talked in the morning, when was the last time you had heard from your stakeholders in there, numbers are not matching. It's a weekly headache, right? So with that, just to understand more simply, is a dry code principle. I put this in something called a macro, which is this portion. All these logics are there. Or it could be multiple macros to do that, or you can do some in one too. And all I do is, that's it. Now I have reused my macro all over the data models, which is less coding, so productivity going up, and the trust with the data, which is I've centralized everything to that portion of it. Now, so the new world, that is one of the things I'm showing from the DBT, is pretty much the lineage that you can see here, right? So we ended up having our payment, which is the facts and all the dimension around it, and this particular portion served for the staging layer, which is standardized, and this area. Now, what the benefit on the usability is not only that, I was able to test all of this individually, and I did a test portion of it, which we're going to cover next. But all of these models, I put a test around it based on what the rules were. And at any moment in time, I'm knowing how they are performing when it comes to health and metrics, and being able to transfer lineage. So with that, there's something called data test that I used, which is, as you can see, I'm trying to test the fact payment tables. This runs in production, and I'm saying I'm going to throw some tests to it in the real time. I have a status check, ID check, approval, and the amount. Amount is a big deal, right? So I go ahead and say, OK. So the data is coming in. I'm going to do these 4 checks. These are some standard checks. And recently we'll have custom tests that I put in DD, which is a bit more advanced. I would recommend a testing framework course if you haven't attended that. Either today and tomorrow, they're happening to have more information on it. And with that, I'm resulting the output. I'm either failing them or warning them based on the results that I'm seeing over here. With that, I'm going to the unit test, which is I'm expecting something, and I can create mock data. And what I did is I said, okay, for that payment reversal, which was an unknown, I'm going to put a mock data in it. When I did it, I said, okay, one input is the tendered amount, and the other is the reversal amount. What my output should be? Nothing, right? I did not get the money because it was reversed, right? So here you go. My output should be that, but if I'm getting the expected one, I'm passing. If not, I failed it. So that went ahead in my use case scenario, really helped out to get what I wanted to do. With that, so these are some of the things of unit testing that I was able to get out of that, especially the edge cases that we talked about, which our business struggled with to get to the data lineage, to see what that looks like, which was really, really eye-opener for making sure they are realizing the revenue loss and work with salespeople to make sure those customers are not churning at the same time. And with that, just in the cascading effect that came more about that was reusable data sets, migrating other store procedures, much more deeper analytics, CI/CD benefits if you have DBT Cloud, if not in-house with Git Actions and data observability monitoring. Well, with that said, I'm just going to leave you with this picture to see, hopefully this answer sums it up, but this is where some of the states of things are with entangled versus DBT models. I don't think I would talk about that, but yeah, so that kind of wraps up my presentation on our state of the things. So yeah, so I'll open that for more questions if there is any. So thank you so much. Yeah, so some refill references. I found this Jinja templating very, very useful. Something that gets missed if you want to write some Jinja and the other things in there, which is from DBT and best practices. But other than that, let's connect. But I'll open it for more questions here. Where's my question slide? Well, that's about it. So we'll open up some questions if anybody has any. More?
Testing.
Pass this around.
Bishal, thank you for that. I had a question around the 40% cost saving that you're talking about. Was it because of the reusable models? How did you achieve that 40%?
So yes, so it contributed from different things. First of all, I saw the development productivity out of it, right? So I'm counting, how long it's taking me to produce that much in that sprint versus, how fast I can produce that model. So that's right there. It's a resource cost, right? And not to realize when things go wrong, how much time you're spending on troubleshooting and data quality, right? So those contributed to that too. Now, when things go to DBT model, there is a lot of materialization of things making incremental where you want to. You can do the profiling of the data in the stats. So that really do down to the Snowflake cost, right? With the integration that it has a Snowflake, it really helps. So those three were contributed to that portion of the things, I would say.
That makes sense.
Was that the movement to DBT in the first place, or was that the movement from core to cloud, that 40% savings?
Oh, so I would say, yeah, good question. First of all, just being in DBT itself, right, because of that productivity. Now, when you do go to cloud, there are differences like in-house CI/CD won't have to be built, right? The mesh architecture that comes, our people over here are the experts sitting here. So those also came out of that. So there are cascading benefit and productivity that came out of those from one to the other. And if you are going to cloud, then you got to see, hey, what is your cost benefit versus the other thing that come out of that.
Hey, Bishal, good job on the presentation here.
Oh, hi.
Hey, good job on your presentation. So my question is in line with with these two folks on the productivity. So we are going through similar modernization journey from Matillion architecture to DBT. So from the so there is that learning curve aspect the team is going through, right? So did you go through similar learning curve, from the modernization perspective, right? You had stored procedures in place, you modernized that to the DBT architecture. So obviously there is some learning curve.
Yes, definitely.
So,
yeah.
how did you attribute that productivity, 40% cost savings?
Yes, definitely. So when I talked about the initial investment versus long-term ROI, right? And that's where I'm putting a time series on it. Say, actually a real scenario where our last product, we just wanted to do in DBT models, right? So there was a learning curve for my developers. DBT courses I have found to be very, very useful. Actually, I had them do the DBT fundamental certification right with that 4-hour course. That really got the level set of the people. So learning curve in the DBT, as you coming from SQL background, was I did not. It wasn't as much realized or input into it as I could for any other sources that were there. So that was into it, but a very small portion of learning curve that went in there. Because once that model was done, I measured, okay, I have a store procedure jobs, and I have a DBT model job. What does it look like when I am extending, adding more features to it? And that measure is also I'm doing. So in today's world, if I get a stakeholder who is asking for features to be added in the old versus the new, I'm always estimating my expense accordingly in a different manner, where it could be a small to a medium. Gotcha. So that's the way I'm measuring it. And of course, developers more happy when they have to touch the DBT model versus the store prog model. So their morale is a little bit definitely high too.
Okay. Thank you so much. Just one more question. I saw your stack in the beginning. You have Fivetran, and we do have Fivetran for our CDC too. So we have real-time fraud use cases, and Fivetran has its own limitations, like 60 seconds latency from the source by the time the transaction gets from the source to your staging layer, and from staging to your raw or business vault. We are implementing vault architecture, so there is that latency factor, like 5 minutes to 10 minutes latency. Are you going through similar latency issues on your side? How are you addressing those for your? Do you have any real-time analytics needs for your stakeholders?
Oh no, yeah. So if I understand your question, you're talking from the Fivetran side, correct? So
correct.
We do have Fivetran, which is a use case. And I think some of my team members can talk more about it if you have questions. I necessarily don't work on the Fivetran side that much. But Fivetran's use cases based on the data sources that we have, for example, Google Sheets and whatnot, those were coming in there. To answer that question more, real-time analytics hasn't been as much, our use cases has been more of a batch processing and that we do. We have been currently doing real-time analytics with some of the other vendors, like we had an export to high touch and whatnot. But those use cases haven't been as in play from our side. But when you come converting from Matillion, and you mentioned we are doing that, and I think we are wrapping up this month, hopefully, from Matillion to DBT to Fivetran. And I know my senior director over there just waiting to switch that button, when he get the chance. So we had use cases where things did go to Fivetran, and when use cases when things did go to DBT. It depends upon the use case of the analytics, if that answers the questions.
Yeah, Bishal. So I have a very basic question. While migrating from stored procedure to DBT, did you refactor your code? So if you refactor your code, then how did you make sure that your tables are in the right format when we are moving to DBT models or macros? So, I mean, have you used any kind of testing apart from unit testing? How did you make sure?
Yes,
everything's proper?
definitely. So DBT does have something called audit helper. And audit helper functions actually help with your schema change and your row count and stuff like that. So okay. One of the things, and we did that at the same time, there are parity tests that I had thrown in with my own side, like from pre and post, when I'm in development phase, right? Okay. Saying, hey, am I expecting this much to coming from the older fact payment table to be this many row and this many? So I literally joined those tables, let's say an account, and check the account. So that's one thing I'm literally doing a raw testing, okay. Which is I'm more confident about. But data tests and unit tests are here as an extended benefit that I'm adding to those, okay. Which is going to have the long-term ROI. But to get go, I would recommend to the audit, which the audit helper function helps doing that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we're loving the questions though. Keep coming.
Can I ask now, or?
Oh yeah, go ahead, yeah.
You guys picked switch from DBT Core to DBT Cloud. Could you walk us through your thought process in that? What was like? Why did you switch to cloud?
Yeah, definitely. We still have some remnants of DBT core in our environment. It hasn't completely done. Now, one of the things from the core to cloud is off the bat, and some of the experts here from Docusign can talk about that. The whole management of the CI/CD that goes away, right? You can work on the Git actions on your side, and you can build your schema version control. Those are there. And one of the things that also helped is the mesh architecture, right? So I have these stage data sources that I made public. Now it could be viewed by cross. So we have an architecture which is meshed in a customized portion of it, which what it did is that one project, which we call a common model, has been public. Now all of the projects, let's say finance, marketing, payment, or account, they are all can actually get their base models from this public project too, which wasn't possible in the core. So those benefits are really, really huge, because you can imagine the version of truth is in one place, and not having to recreate those stage sources again and again for your projects, right? And once to maintain them is much easier. One time is changed, all other projects are propagated with that. So those were some of the benefits that you get out of the cloud right away, which is just out of the box. And then other things are, again, as DBT adds more enhancement to the cloud, that comes with it. So hopefully that answers the question.
Sorry, one more question. Okay. Did you do any reconciliation from the legacy to the new DBT models? The actual context of the tables, I mean.
You mean to say like very drastic changes and stuff?
Yeah.
Yes, and one of the slides that when I showed you the use case scenario is I wasn't just done with just the migration and putting the same thing. It was an opportunity for me to ask those questions again to the business, the fresh questions as of today. What is happening? What are your pain points? And that's why I was showing the slide saying, if you can take that opportunity to actually build it in a more robust fashion as it meets the business, then that can happen. But what I also want to see is as you go through this path, maybe get the low hanging and the high impact migrated first, because you're always going to be fighting for competing priorities on your side, right? So once you get that, I have seen my business stakeholders, like I had a meeting with my product manager just last couple of weeks ago, and he said, hey, I've been realized we had this enhancement for you guys. It's done. I didn't even know. I said, yes, because we have modularized it with a new model in DBT. So he's seeing that. It's going to take time, but he's seeing that. So, but great question.